My name's Leanne Pinder and I am the movement director on Punch. Initially, the thing that drew me to this story was the fact that it was set in Nottingham, that I'm actually from Nottingham, I'm from Mansfield, which is where James Graham is also from. And in the play and in the writing, I recognise those places, that town, those people, and it feels so familiar to me as someone who grew up in that place. I really didn't understand how much of an impact that would have on me. When I got into the rehearsal space and I heard my accent everywhere and people would ask me, how would you say this from where you're from? And I loved it. I really loved it. I had no idea how important that was. Well, my approach to this play from a movement point of view was initially taken from the script. When you read the script, it's fast-paced and it's quick and time moves on quickly. And I wanted that to be reflected in the movement, to be able to kind of jump through time quite quickly. The pub crawls and the senses of the night out move on so fast. And I wanted to be able to reflect that in the way that we move around the stage. You'll see that someone moving in is a consequence of someone moving out, and the flow of the space feels really important to directly reflect the story as well. It's also reflective of Jacob's journey. So in the beginning, it's very frantic and fast and edgy, and as things happen and as he learns more and as he grows older, within the play we also calm the movement and make it more measured. So that's how I approached it. So the rehearsal process for the play was really interesting. We only have 6 actors in the play that multi-role. So asking them to do that was so brilliant. They're so talented, but it meant that actually they also move fast through the play. So working with them and using their way of moving and how they approach it felt really, really important. I'm sure there are many of us in this process that can say they've learned much more about the process of rehabilitation in prisons, out of prison, and the need for it, and how important the message of the play is right now in society and for young men as well. There's a lot spoken about in the press, in the media at the moment, about young men having space to open up and to talk more. I think it's really important that theatre tackles stories like Jacob's, because it isn't a singular story. It is something that around the country people recognise, and without the education of stories like this for people to see, it is very easy to follow a similar path. And I think that that's why that's important. So physically, to keep ourselves safe in the rehearsal room, everyone does a warm-up, which gets their bodies and voices ready for both rehearsal and for performance. There's quite a lot of physicality within the show. So there are moments where we need to specifically have knee pads or pads in the back of our jackets so that when they roll on stage that they're keeping physically literally safe from bruises and that kind of thing. The company are quite wonderful. They have an amazing camaraderie between them. They're very supportive of each other, and they're like a small little family. They've got a great sense of humour, and they tend to be able to switch into character and then have a lot of fun off stage. They're able to kind of laugh and talk to each other, listen to music, dance in the corridors, those kind of things. My favourite thing about theatre has always been the ability to make people feel in the space. And I think being in the space, rather than being on TV or film, sometimes makes you feel that energy that comes off stage. In particular, in this play, you can feel the energy, the sense of athleticism within the cast. And I think you can really lose yourself in the space, in that story, and feel it more kind of immersively. You feel like you're in the story rather than watching it. During the research process, my first thing is to go through the script, pick out anything that is important to the story, dates, obviously the region, what was happening at the time, the different characters involved, what they do for a living. Also, the idea that these people are real life people. It's their real life story. So there are interviews and there's footage that you can watch. So because we are representing real life people, it's really helpful to get to know what they're like, to listen to their story and to watch their physicality as well. I take all of that information and I start to understand how physically each character might move. I start to think about the themes of the play, about the specific nights out, about the energy that's required, and I start to play with that language. We started to look at the idea of racing around the set, how that might feel, running away from police cars, dodging and ducking and diving, and using all of those terms to start to create that language. I think there are moments in the show that are funny and inspiring, and approaching them from a movement point of view was to look at those events in real life and see how they played out, see how the interviews were played out on TV, and how the shifts in the body and the relaxation in the body at the time when that joke is being told, or the pride in which someone has in their body when, for example, the TED Talk is happening. You can see those emotions kind of emerge into those people as they're being told. So it's to look at those individual emotions and see how we could relate that to our actors on stage as well. So within the rehearsal process, we were inspired a lot by the music of the time as well, and our sound and music composer, Alex, wrote some brilliant music for the show, which also inspired me, particularly in the dance sequences, the nights out, the pub crawls. And it was really fantastic to work alongside Alex to really capture the vibe at the time, the era that we were in, looking at how you would dance on a night out with that music was part of the process that I really loved.